one, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for continuing to tune in and to listen to the stories of adoptees that I've been reading out over the past few weeks. Thank you for continuing to watch the video to the end. It does make a difference to getting the content spread around, and as you're aware, raising awareness and doing my bit, should I say, for getting the message out there a bit more about what some of the challenges that adopted people go through is why I do this. I do want to point out that it is very possible to heal through a lot of this, but it does mean, first of all, acknowledging to ourselves the reasons behind some of the patterns that we may notice in our lives, some of the ways in which we behave and respond to people and within relationships and to the environment, how we feel about ourselves and that kind of thing. We kind of have to first acknowledge that before we can begin the sometimes very long journey to kind of heal through that, accept maybe what happened to us, and to keep moving forward and continuing to try and be better and more cohesive and more joined up as people, because it's often that fragmentation that the trauma causes, the separation, and then what many adoptees go through after the original trauma that can then exacerbate those feelings of separateness, and so we end up with fragmented parts of ourselves, and it's often those parts that are responsible for behaving in particular ways in certain situations. And so the ultimate goal is to have a well-formed self, and that is very, very possible through therapy is one way, but that's not the only way. But before any of that can be possible, it's acknowledging to ourselves that we are behaving and responding in particular ways to people and the environment, and once we acknowledge and see that, then that's when we can really and truly begin. So obviously it's not that widely accepted yet that adoption is trauma, although we are very, very well aware that is now coming in terms of that being the belief system. I think the move in the UK recently to allow adult adoptees to access therapy much more easily, removing the need for Ofsted registration, was just one nod in the direction of understanding that adoptees may need lifelong support. And so now, as I mentioned in one of my earlier short videos, that has been made available here in the UK. And there's a lot of research out there. There are a lot of amazing people, both on YouTube and other resources, podcasts and whatnot, that are like me banging the drum. But as we continue to do that, then the average person, or the person that doesn't come into contact with adoption, learns that this is not something that is necessarily the fairy tale that they were once led to believe. Anyway, enough from me rambling on, but today I want to read out another story, and this was sent in to me by a young lady called Hazel, and so given that my eyesight is shot to pieces, I will be putting on my glasses to read this out. Please be sensitive as always with your comments, please be kind. These stories are all people's lives. So I'm Hazel Florine, and I'm writing from my class at Cambridge International School, Dubai. I am an adoptee, and even though it is special, I do feel illegitimate, unofficial, and like I have yet to exist sometimes. But I'm here to share my story. As a girl whose father recently told her she was adopted before her 17th birthday, or as a late discovery adoptee, as you all might like to say, life as a teenager was always a big question mark. I remember all the times I would Google why my foster parents' temperament is just so starkly different to mine, or the overextended time where I was ultra sensitive and adjusting to a new city after moving out of my hometown 1 hour away. I remained dismayed at the fact that all it needed was a small answer. Childhood was like living in my own castle. I grew up there. There is Abu Dhabi, UAE. Despite being an Arab place, us Mangalorean Indians form a close-knit but huge community there, or close as it seems. I had my girlfriends, my cousins at sleepovers. I was the best performer. I was Jasmine in my school's Aladdin play. I made friends quickly. I loved school. I used to go there 6 times a week, including church time. Most knew me. I knew them. Of course, there were times where I was mean to, left out, or my parents fought and teachers found my group and I too undisciplined. But it was all fun and games until I slowly started finding an escape in daydreaming in front of my bathroom mirror or developing addictions to my phone. When I entered the 7th grade, my first feelings of dread started to hit me. My best friend left to go to India and my talkative, naughty days were over. Instead, I would just giggle out of nervousness in my crampy classroom with a friend and wait till the day was over. Soon, it was time for my teenage year in Dubai, which was quite a turbulent ride at sea. I had all the Google answers about anxiety, depression, adjustment disorder. I had easy access to therapy, but catastrophically, no one told me that my parents were my biological aunt and uncle for the sake of saving ego. The first few years, teenage life felt like a fog, but like it always is, you eventually adjust, and with the addition of innocent friends and sessions at the dance studio, the city towers don't seem daunting, and lights warm up to you. That's just the gist of it. As a 16-year-old, most of my depression had gone after COVID. It would still linger sometimes. I had metro rides overlooking the city line where I'd stare wide-eyed at new faces, to study tuition and fun times with friends there. But beneath the bustle lied the crux of my empty habits and addictions. Every day I came home from school, I would dance and dream that I was in my hometown's church hall performing, expressing myself, being loved. Sometimes I would even dream of pleasing the uncle, my birth father, promoting his business and all that. The hometown is also the place where my birth parents and their 2 daughters stay. My prayers and thoughts, they all just revolved around wanting to get back home. It came from a place of just wanting a feeling of belonging that the child in me would never even have thought twice about. Apart from daydreaming, I would eat too emotionally and get addicted to my phone. I know there's this thing with adoptees and addiction, and I was addicted to expressing myself through dance. Over time, dance made me a sponge, waiting for its environment to oversoak it. I became too sensitive, and during my board exams, my bad habits got too big. I started losing sleep, over-listening to music, and started believing people were saying bad things about me. This person and that is against me. It was a small period of psychosis. I couldn't control my feelings and started messaging people too much, saying mean things to a crush I developed who didn't even know me well. After one of the exams, my parents picked me up from school and took me straight to a psychologist. And at the intense appointment, I strangely started weeping loudly about my auntie, my mother's younger sister, how she controlled me and small interactions with her that made me feel she did wrong. It was only then, so that in the car ride back from the therapy appointment, my foster father decided to break the news to me. Hazel was born at Salika Hospital in the early morning darkness, and by the time the sun came up, the crying baby was placed in the bassinet next to the auntie, dressed in a nursing dress, on the hospital bed, all ready for the picture with my birth dad, grandma and aunt. This still feels hard-hitting to date. My birth mother is the auntie in Abu Dhabi. I came home and started crying profusely on my bed. Even though my intuition was spot on, I completely lost the ability to think straight. While crying on the bed about my mum, I also started weeping and asking my mum whether my silly crush Brian was my brother. I really was 16, but I thought everyone was actually trying to trick me. I kept looking back on my life and trying to interpret what I thought everyone was trying to say, but only without words from their mouth. Later, I kept asking, what other dark secrets are there in our families? Because I just wanted to feel like this didn't just happen to me. Later, I went on Reddit and found that this actually happens to a lot of people who do 23andMe DNA testing and all that. I hope they didn't lose common sense like I did though. Trauma happens at birth, but the most painful memory I can remember was when she, birth mum, visited me on a Sunday before I got sent to the hospital. I don't remember much of what she said except utter rubbish, like talk to Tia at the next party. Instead, she gave me a flower colouring book and makeup. The face of denial was staring at me. I thought maybe this dark truth affects lots of firstborn daughters and it was my turn to be strong. I remember letting out a high-pitched laugh, almost like a whistle note, but it was a cry, a cough and a scream for help mixed as one outward release. I was relieved. I thought she'd be there at the doctor's room with my foster mother, but she only joined me at the lift and then sat at the couch in the reception after informing me that it was good that I lost weight. Her words were so casually unimportant, whereas I was emaciated and crushed. Not only is it unfair that as a result of both sides of my parents not opening up on truth and merely giving me unclear signals like, you need to listen, Hazel, a nod to not being like my mum, but a girl is put in a mental health ward for a month to work through these issues with medication. In our families, we keep things formal and of pious image, and it went without saying that I could never talk to my parents about why they decided to do this after my birth. More than just being locked within a children's hospital for the entire month of June, missing prom and the last days of year 11, I think the worst part of being adopted was not this 1 month of my world turning upside down. The worst part was all my teenage years where I was so lost and had no answer. The nurses putting me on anxiety meds only gave me false feelings of happiness, whereafter, at summer camp, I was just excited to be out in the world again. But I feel sorry for most adoptees who don't have the time to unravel why they feel the things they do, what their unmet needs are, which is the root of all problems. After the hospital, I stopped the meds and went through a bit of a slump again. I went from wishing I shared the experiences of my Music Institute owner by day, MC by night dad, and friendly and fashionable mum, the love they shared, to picturing glorious me just never giving my mother the time of day when I'm older and successful. I thought I wanted my mum to one day cry driving down the street and looking at the billboard of my success and wishing she shared my happiness. I wanted her to need me like I needed her. Over time, I realised that my daydreams are just empty longings for my deep, deep need to feel important, to have intimacy, to just never be abandoned again or abandoned at all. At 17, going on 18, I really could have used my mother's voice, which would echo through me and make me never lose direction. I'm the passionate lass to my workaholic parents who dress in blues and greys, but I've read all my birth mum's messages on the family group on WhatsApp, and I cannot figure out her silver lining. She doesn't have to shout to the world that she has 3 daughters, not 2. She'd tell all her friends, but simply lying to your 2 smaller daughters means you're lying to yourself. You're denying who you entirely are. No matter all the years I swung through the pendulum of anxiety to depression, to goal-oriented and aimless, I have a greater confidence I can face more challenges today. But to live within the fake stability of friends, of comfort and shallow relations with your family in your hometown like my mum is, you're merely living a surface level of happiness of life. Even if it was out my own mother's sister parenting me, I'm adopted. I feel like an outsider. Sometimes when my parents talk about their son, I don't think my mum has ever considered this, and that's super whack. Even if I've hated her, forgiven her, I still feel like I wanted to have that emotional relationship with her. I wanted us to understand each other like no other. I know that if my parents on earth can't give me what I want, God will complete all my needs in ways I can't imagine. He freed me from the greater gravity of my addictions and daydreams because I yearned for him during the days leading up to the reveal. I want to free myself from all my bad habits now. But my message is, even if you don't know who your parents are, or if they never were open with you, didn't respect you enough to tell you your truth, or treated you like a child that has no voice, I want you to realise that you're built for a greater purpose than your parents. Uncover what your unmet needs are and free yourself from habits that will never complete you. I'm figuring that next part out. Until then, hang in till we all get back home. Well, Hazel, thank you for sending that in. It's very moving to have heard from a young lady like yourself. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Hazel speaks of all the pain and trauma that goes along with what it is to be adopted. She also touches on addiction, and she quite rightly says that addiction is overrepresented in the adoptee demographic as a coping mechanism, as an escape as well. Addiction comes in all forms, doesn't it? It can come in the form of food, of alcohol, of drugs, of sex, of shopping, of throwing yourself into an activity, or of overindulging in anything really. Addiction comes in all forms, but it's a coping mechanism, it's a numbing technique, and it happens a lot. So thank you for sharing your feelings and your thoughts and your journey with us, Hazel. Keep in touch. Thank you. Until the next one, please like and subscribe. It definitely does make a difference. Until the next one, I'll see you next week. Bye.